Hey everyone, welcome back to my channel. So today I'm doing a video all about classic perfumes that were worn by some of the big classic stars of Hollywood from back in the day, from Hollywood's heyday, as well as other sort of well-known celebrities from the past. This has been requested a few times, so I thought I'd do it. Most of these perfumes are quite old, but I picked ones and people that wore perfumes that are still available today, so you can still buy these, though lots have been reformulated. But if you're new here, then welcome. I'm all about perfumes. This channel is all about perfumes. I have so many videos, so do check them all out. And if you are a regular but you haven't subscribed, then do hit that subscribe button and show your support. I really appreciate it. So I guess we need to start with the most famous person, and probably the most famous perfume associated with someone, of course, Marilyn Monroe and Chanel No. 5. She famously said that it was the only thing that she wore in bed was Chanel No. 5. Now, unfortunately, we can't smell the exact Chanel No. 5 that Marilyn would have worn because it has been reformulated many times since she said that. But I guess it still must have that same smell. It's just slightly different each time they reformulate it. So Chanel No. 5 is an aldehyde perfume, which makes it's kind of powdery, it's clean, and it's in the sort of oriental aromatic, I guess, end of the spectrum. I personally find aldehydes very old-fashioned. If you like Chanel No. 5 but you want something a bit more modern, then Chanel No. 5 Low that they brought out a few years ago is like their modern twist on it, but it is still an aldehyde perfume. But of course, Chanel No. 5 continues to sell. I don't think it is the best seller from Chanel. I think Coco Mademoiselle is, but this is what Marilyn Monroe wore, and we will remember that forever. She's also said to have worn a perfume by Fleurs, which is a classic traditional British perfumery. She's said to have worn their Rose Geranium, which is actually discontinued, but she's said to have had it delivered to her while she was filming Some Like It Hot. So I'm sure she didn't just wear Chanel No. 5 all the time forever. So this one is rumoured to have also been worn by her. So next we have Audrey Hepburn and Givenchy's L'Interdit. So this is French for forbidden, and this is a perfume that was created for Audrey Hepburn, and the name is forbidden because she loved it so much she didn't want other people to have it, so she sort of, and that's how they named it after that. She wanted it to be forbidden to anyone except her to have it. This continued to be sold by Givenchy in a different bottle, but it was not popular, it wasn't well known. And then a couple of years ago, they relaunched it with a new bottle, a changed, reformulated smell, and I think it is quite a good seller now. But from researching it, from what I can see, the one that's sold today and the original are not that similar. So the original that Audrey Hepburn wore was a powdery perfume with violet and iris and the aldehyde scent as well. So like a powdery Chanel No. 5, a violety Chanel No. 5. Whereas the L'Interdit Eau de Parfum now is a white floral, mainly tuberose. It has pear in there, has some other white florals, so quite different. So probably doesn't bear much relation to that classic one, but if you like tuberose, then definitely give this a try. So next on my list is Yankee Candle, and this is by Jean Patou, their Joy perfume. Now this is a perfume I had never heard of until I started working selling perfume, and we sold it in the shop, and so many people would ask for it. I quickly learned about it. I have to say, it was always women of a more mature age bracket that were asking for it. I think this was an incredibly popular perfume in the 60s and the 70s. This is what Yankee Candle wore. And Joy by Jean Patou was known as one of the most expensive perfumes in the world for a long time. I think it's 10,000 jasmine flowers and 28 roses were said to have gone into it, so it's very expensive, very exclusive, and that is basically what it smells like. It's a white floral jasmine with lots of rose as well. It's very, 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 very floral. It's very flowery. It has some ylang ylang in as well, some tuberose, so this is just like a heavy, heavy floral. Again, I find it a very classic smell, but it doesn't have any of those aromatic-y or aldehyde notes in that you get in some of the other classic perfumes. This is literally just all about the flowers. So next we have Grace Kelly, and she of course was a movie star that went on to marry into royalty, becoming the Princess of Monaco. Incredibly famous wedding, and I think Kate Middleton's wedding dress was inspired by her wedding dress, I think. So this was probably the biggest celebrity wedding of the time. So she wore Creed Fleurissimo down the aisle, and this is very well known, and this definitely is still talked about and known. If you go to the counter at a Creed and ask them about Fleurissimo, they'll tell you this is what Grace Kelly wore down the aisle. Again, this has tuberose in, but this has a lot of powdery violet notes in, so and iris as well. So this is a heavy floral bouquet. It's not dissimilar to Joy in some sense. It's more like Joy than it is like Blondie Original or Chanel No. 5. It's floral, hence the name Fleurissimo, but mainly tuberose rather than rose, even though there is a bit of rose in, and very powdery with powdery violets. So next we have Elizabeth Taylor, who I'm a huge fan of. Now she of course is known for her incredibly successful fragrance line. I've done a video all about it. Her White Diamonds perfume is one of the best-selling perfumes of all time. I think it is the best-selling celebrity perfume, but of course these came out when she was quite older, so of course in her heyday of her film career these weren't what she was wearing. So she wore a fragrance which is very unusual. It's by Jean Desprez and it's called Bala Versailles, and it comes in this bottle with a sort of almost religious image on it, and very unusual bottle. And again, this is one I'd never heard of, but was something that was asked for a lot by ladies of that generation in the shop, so I quickly learned about it. And of course Elizabeth Taylor was very good friends with Michael Jackson, and it's said that she gave it to him as a gift and he wore it every day until he died. So this has a great story behind it. I think it's very unusual. I think you can get this at very low prices now. So this is a very heavy perfume, very balsamic, and it has that ingredient in civet, which comes from animals. I think this is now banned, so it will be a synthetic version of it, but it's that animalistic heavy balsamic scent. It's ambery, it's got resins in, it's got deep vanilla, leather. It's, if you like very heavy intense perfumes, then this is the kind of thing you'd like. It's very, very in your face, strong, balsamic, ambery, woody notes. It's almost the unisex type smell with all those notes. So very classic, very traditional bottle. So I guess, yeah, this is what Elizabeth Taylor wore before she launched her own perfumes. So next we have Dorothy Dandridge, the first black lady to be nominated for an Oscar, and she wore Taboo. Again, this is another very popular one in the shop and something that you can now get incredibly cheap. This is your deep spicy classic perfume. Loads of spices and cloves, and it has that ambery civetness in there as well. So this is probably as sort of spicy as you're going to get from these classic perfumes. So I think in its day the spiciness, very sexy, very unusual, quite strong and in your face, and not afraid to sort of be out there and be all spicy. So yeah, and I think this one is like less than £10 now, I think. Next we have Ava Gardner, who of course was married to Frank Sinatra, and this is another Creed perfume, Creed's Fleur de la Rose Bulgare, and I believe that they used to fight quite a lot, her and Sinatra, and the story is that when she had sort of made up with him, whatever, she would spray the hall with perfume to let him know that she was ready to be friends again, I guess. This is definitely a lighter than a lot of the other ones that we've discussed here. It's this light citrus rose, so quite fresh, quite spring-like. It has ambergris in as well, so which will give it a little bit of spicy amberiness. Again, echoing back to those more classic amber scents of the time, but predominantly it's a citrus rose. Next we have Rita Hayworth, and she was a huge fan of Shalimar from Guerlain, something that's very much still sold today, still going strong with so many flankers. I did a video on it, I'll leave it linked, about all the flankers in Shalimar. This is a spicy balsamic smell, and there's a lot of incense in here, which gives it a smoky, incensey, warm smell. It has a vanilla, but it's a heavy, deep vanilla, sort of leathery vanilla almost, with that incense, so it's quite an intense perfume that really does sort of take over your senses. It's a strong one, you don't need very many sprays, and I can imagine this would have been quite a sexy perfume at the time, having that real incense power in it, something that wasn't in, you know, none of the others we've talked about have incense in, so it really would have stood out. And this was one of the most successful perfumes of all time. It's released in the 20s and was still popular for decades and decades. And then lastly, I thought I'd add in here Princess Diana. So she wore a very floral scent called Fleurs, which means a few flowers in French, I think. And this is a quite strong but not a heavy floral smell. It's a classic floral, but it's a prettier, not as heavy as something like Jean Paul's Joy. I think this goes back to sort of turn of the century time, sort of before the First World War. It's a very old perfume, and this is what Princess Diana is said to have worn. So it's lots of green notes, it's flowers, it has a mossiness to it as well. Oak moss, there's jasmine. So if you like green mossy floral scents, this is that kind of vibe. Again, I think you can get this at low prices. It's definitely still sold. So yeah, a sort of classic feminine floral there for Princess Diana. So that is it, guys. That's my list. Let me know what you think, and of course let me know in the comments as well any other classic celebrities that you know what perfume they wore. You know, let me know. It's always interesting to find out. But that's it, guys. So thank you so much for watching as always. I'll leave the links down below to where you can buy these in the US, UK, Australia. But that's it. So thank you so much for watching as always, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye.